Hello, and welcome to the Argyle CISO Leadership Forum. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our moderator, Carlos Goveo, Director of Operations, General Manager, Arizona GardaWorld. We're really excited to have Carlos and our panelists for a panel discussion titled Building Security Culture Across Your Diverse Workforce. Welcome, Carlos. Over to you.
Thank you, Nick. Happy to be here. Humbled to be allowed the opportunity to moderate this panel, which will be very interesting. We have loaded questions and very good topics. That said, I'll pass it to the moderators. To the panelists, and you guys get the opportunity to introduce yourselves. Gregory, I'll give you the floor first.
Thank you for including me in this forum as well. Gregory Bell, Senior Security Consultant at AWS. I've been with AWS now for 3.5 years, where I help onboard or expand the presence of customers within AWS. Prior to AWS, I was on the statewide CISO for Maryland's judiciary government. And prior to that, I was a CIO, CISO for Virginia's Department of Behavioral Health, which encompasses numerous hospitals, community service boards, and licensed providers. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Korede.
Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be here. So my name is Korede, and I currently serve as a VP of Cybersecurity Engineering at a Fortune 25 company. So within the financial space, coming from that technical background, my expertise lies within developing security programs and strategies, implementing cybersecurity solutions, fortifying teams with procedures and processes to kind of mitigate risk and just protect cyber threat from an holistic view. And that's about it.
Thank you, sir. Nabil.
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Nabil Shamsi. I work for Ford Motor Company. Been there for about 22 years, so almost all my adult life. Currently, my portfolio includes data security, access controls for the data lakes, and the data privacy and compliance. Prior to that, I was responsible for Ford's cybersecurity program in late 2010s. So that's myself.
Thank you so much. So, gentlemen, we're going to start with the questions. I wanted to re-emphasize the topic of building security culture across your diverse workforce. I mean, culture by itself, it's a challenging endeavor. Then you get the subsegment of security culture, which you have to make sure it matches the business culture and all the things that come with that, adding to that the diverse workforce and how the environment and the landscape has changed in the last 3-4 years. So that said, I wanted to kind of remind a couple of the challenges that we have to address as we're trying to build a new security culture in this new date, right? So we have an asynchronous workforce, we have remote workforce, we have bring your own devices to work, emerging technologies, and organizational silos. So keeping all that in mind, Korede, I'm going to give you a start at the first question. From your experience, how has cybersecurity evolved over the past couple of years? If you could share some real-world examples or any experiences that you had in the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree any less to what you were saying. So, but from that financial standpoint, cybersecurity has significantly changed in the recent years, like you mentioned. So what we've witnessed is a surge in the cyber attacks, particularly the rise in the remote workforce during the COVID pandemic that never really subsided. So it's like what we had in the past is meeting the present, and we're just going from there. So in that case, we're seeing attackers becoming more sophisticated. We're seeing exploitation of vulnerabilities in new ways. For example, we've seen a significant increase in ransomware attacks, and organizations all organization sizes are being targeted today on like, small scale, small to medium to large. It's all kind of organizations from retail to financial to all sorts of them, healthcare as well. So those attacks, I like the importance of robust incident response though. We're talking deep fake, synthetic identity fraud, generative AI, which has its own dark side as well. So other than that, it's more of like new threats merging with the more sophisticated ones that we are currently have today.
All right, thank you. And in your opinion, how did that affect the workforce, learning, adapting to operating in the COVID environment, and then now, any input on that specific part of the question?
Yeah, so shifted towards like remote workers. We're looking at users that get to connect from, so that for example, the act of remote work can span from the confines of your kitchen table at this point up onto like Starbucks coffee or coffee shop or something like that. So, understanding the risk behind having to VPN across multiple unsecure location is one of the pain points we're seeing employees experience today.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, if
Greg,
I could,
what?
I just
Greg,
want
what
to
would you want to
tag
add?
on. Yeah. So when I look at things in the marketplace today and within IT structures, what I've seen is cybersecurity really going from the back room to the boardroom. There's been increased emphasis, as Corday mentioned, but also we went from really just securing our own computers at our house, viruses, businesses doing the same thing, to really now having a complete functioning department almost, where it's securing the systems from bad actors. When I was in college a few years ago, or maybe a little bit more than that, it was thought upon that it was really a novelty to create a virus. And, I created one, and, it was a great thing and helped me probably get an A in the course. But I think if students were to do that today, it would likely be frowned upon. So, for me, just seeing that evolution of in the technology space, where, boardrooms now are talking to and relying on the background and feedback from their CISOs. So it really has seen a transition.
I like to add a point here as well, and I've seen it over the years that initially, to working off Greg's point, right? Initially, security was, hey, just secure the system. I built something, you secure it. And now security is at the table because the executives and the CEOs are realizing that having security will enable new value in the product. The customers are demanding it. So I think it's this new partnership is just new era that opens new windows and new doors for us.
So Nabil, I will give you the second question since I have you now. How are companies diversifying the role of cybersecurity across the entire organization, and what does it look like?
Yeah, so great question. So historically, the traditional cybersecurity people would come from network administration, system administration, or auditors, right? These people who knew a bit about security, knew good system hygiene, would come in and then were responsible for setting up first set of firewalls, first set of SIEMs, the first set of antiviruses, right? But over the years now, many colleges, many universities now are offering a cybersecurity major. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, probably nobody did that. 10 years ago, only a few. And now you can look around, almost every college, every university is offering. So now the business have this a pool of young blood reach out to who has been professionally trained. And then the third piece I have is about the IoTs, right? So again, this new IoT era, right, where you have connected devices, your current connected thermostats, your connected toasters, fridges, are enabling a new awareness where the customer is demanding that, hey, you gotta make sure this thing works and I cannot be hacked. And so from that perspective, the customer our customers have grown and there are a lot more of them and there is new demand for them. So the organizations just have to make sure they use a diverse tools, diverse processes, layered security to, in order to fix this, right? Just a traditional firewall wouldn't do it. They got to make sure they have security in their software, security in their build process, and then a method to come back and update their patch, right? Log4j was just an eye opener. How a single library could be responsible or for opening a security hole in so many devices in so many places. And last but not least, I think there are opportunities for businesses to reach out to organizations such as SANS, as well as their local organizations which are helping train new blood. So that will be a good place to start.
Yeah, and if I could just add on to that, I think organizations themselves having this diverse population, as well as a more highly trained employees, if they can democratize the role of cybersecurity by having all employees play a part in securing the organization, as well as building customer products for your customers. For instance, possibly training your employees on how to do threat assessments, and then allowing them to use that training to test new applications before they're put into production or before they're released to customers.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I'm seeing that not in just cyberspace, but also privacy space where teams are having embedded engineers, right, who are knowledgeable in privacy and security space. And they want to make sure as the new compliance rules are coming, they can educate the general engineer in the product, make sure the product is compliant before it launches and not after the fact. So great point, Greg.
Yeah, great question. Great points to show. If I can add to that, so diversifying the role of cybersecurity, I'm seeing it in trends more that companies are beginning to realize that cybersecurity is not just like an IT issue, but a business issue. Gone are the days where IT related findings are usually, or budget wise, they're falling below the line, and they're probably tending towards the like nice to have than the must haves. So there's a lot of shift in that space as well. And also with the actual diversifying of the role of cyber, we're seeing instances where C-suite is adopting C-suite and executive leadership teams. They're allocating enough budget to cover cybersecurity programs, and they're also promoting the enterprise resources groups as well. So the ERGs, they are underrepresented. We're talking minority groups and all the DEI practices just to foster that security awareness in its entirety from that diversity standpoint.
Correct. I love that. And Greg, you mentioned democratizing cybersecurity across the organization. And obviously part of making everybody a participant in the security of the enterprise would be security awareness training, and how do we start that and how people receive that, and obviously increasing the perspective and the solution base, including diversity, equity, and inclusion of the workforce, which has changed dramatically, and how do we address that. So I'll move on to the third question real quick. I'll start with you, Greg. What is the importance of having a diverse cybersecurity team, and what are the benefits of employees from different backgrounds for the enterprise?
Oh, thank you for that. So I have 2 points. First, let's define diversity. So diversity is a combination of unique skills, experiences, perspectives, cultural backgrounds that make us who we are and ultimately benefits our global customers. It includes, but is not limited to, gender, race, ethnicity, nationality, physical, cognitive abilities, sexual orientation, military status, education, religion, age, social class, language. I mean, I can go on and on, right? Individuals and groups are not one-dimensional and in fact are shaped by multiple and intersecting abilities, right? So for instance, cognitive diversity, because you can actually have a diverse team, but everyone thinks the same, right? And so you're not really having, you're not sometimes able to solve the problems you need to. Group or team reflects differences in knowledge, including beliefs, preferences, and perspectives. So, some of the benefits by having a diverse workforce is you have a greater innovation and creativity. You have people with different perspectives being able to innovate better, provide better creativity. Also, they provide a broad range of skills. Businesses will be boosted. In fact, to my second point I wanted to make was companies in the top quartile for race and ethnic diversity actually are 35% more likely to have financial returns above their respective industry counterparts, as well as gender diversity having a 15% increase in financial returns over the respective industry median. So this was a McKinsey and company report. Other benefits that I've seen is, happier employees, increased productivity, understanding your customers better. I mean, if you hire, for instance, all white males, right? Your customers are not all white males. You have a diverse customer base as well, and they have different perspectives. So having a more diverse population of employees to be able to pull from allows you to have more talent to choose from when you're going to hire. There's higher revenues that can be increased. So I think there's a number of benefits to organizations, not just financially, but just being a better corporate citizens as well.
I want to echo that, Greg. There are financial benefits, and then having a diverse team look at the problem, right, will help solve the problem quicker at times, as well as look at the new aspects, right? Especially again, as you're marketing to different genders and different nationalities, having that perspective will make sure that your product is better acceptable in those areas. And so it is all about revenue. So great point.
So if I may add for the group, we're on question number 3, and Greg, that you had some great points on that. And this will tie in one of the questions from the audience. What recommendation can you make for an organization struggling to attract diverse talent? So before we go into that real quick, we wanted to say, so obviously diversity, equity, and inclusion provide incredible benefits, right? It's a force multiplier for the organization. It accelerates innovation, like Greg mentioned, and growth. Those are fantastic benefits. However, it is challenging to integrate that. As you know, there's cultural awareness, peer-to-peer feedback, shared goals, interpersonal communications that all are different and present a little bit of a challenge on how do you provide feedback, how is it received based on cultural differences and backgrounds and perspectives, and how do you manage that in order to be able to have open, constructive conflict to get to that innovation and growth piece of the organization. So that's another challenge to integrating and making diversity grow. I will go to the question 4. Keep in mind the audience question of how do we get over or make it work if you're struggling to hire talent in diversity, equity, and inclusion. The next
Can I
question is
quickly
how,
add a couple? Oh,
yes,
I
of
was
course,
gonna
go ahead, go.
quickly add a couple insights from question 3. So I just to have two quick things. So the first thing I think is diverse teams bring a wide range of perspective and appearance, and that in turn turns into more creative problems. And we haven't just looked at across various teams and various individuals. Then the other one has been that it helps in addressing workforce shortage. So there's this, obvious shortage in the cybersecurity space. So by tapping into that talent of gender, race, of underrepresented groups, there's always that mix between, and the last thing is just having that diverse team brings like equipped and understanding of addressing threat vectors across the organization. That always reminds me of an incident where, during my lead IR days. So we're doing this incident response, and I see this. It's like a code, but it's in Farsi, so I can quickly recognize that, oh, this language is Farsi. It's not Arabic. It's not anything else. But just having that, just able to pinpoint that specific details in a fraction of seconds. I think it's what we're talking about too.
All right, thank you, Greg. Let's stay with you for the fourth question. How are you prioritizing DE&I in cybersecurity, and what recommendations can you make for organizations that are struggling to succeed in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. So prioritizing D&I for my organization in cybersecurity entails creating and maintaining a culture that values the differences and fosters inclusivity. So we're not just doing this as nice to have when we're almost finishing our hiring process, for example. So we're actively recruiting from this diverse talent pool. So we're providing training on unconscious bias so people can understand that this is important to us as a culture, and it's a mission and a value that we strongly hold. And also we're offering all this mentorship and career development programs. So we even offer for non-employees to, like, we just have that community practice. So that's one of the great things. That the other thing is for recommendation, which is the B part of that question, is going to be organization. So my recommendation to organizations struggling in this area is going to be setting that clear D&I goals. Like, okay, this is what we want. This is how we're going to establish it, and establishing the accountability, like who's going to be responsible resource for education and training. So we're looking at different spaces, from creating that safe space for employees to voice their concerns, and establishing like business resource groups, BRGs, enterprise resource groups, and implementation across the board.
Thank you.
I'd like to add a little bit there, and I think this is where you were touching as well, that reaching out to the local schools, community college, and universities, right, and tapping into that local talent, helping out, help in. So for one of the things Ford does is it allows its employees to volunteer into the local organizations, right? So that as the employees are giving back, that is enabling new local talent, right, near the plants, near the offices. So again, right, that allows a continuous flow of new blood. Second thing is allow and encourage interdepartment, cross-train your employees, right? And your employees already have knowledge of your business processes. They already know what your products are. Allowing them to train will allow you to grow from within, right? And you can have local organizations, right, based on gender, based on races, based on culture awarenesses, and gender equality. So that is a great pool. A lot of times, companies overlook that, right? And then last but not least, there are several minority organizations that are training, mentoring new blood, connecting with them will allow you again. These are new employees who don't have a lot of experience, but they're highly motivated. They've spent time setting up their own labs, going through the evening schools, getting training. I had the opportunity to mentor some of them. Their motivation is impressive. They don't have a lot of corporate experience, but they are motivated and they have basic tools and knowledge. So reaching out to them is another pool. You can connect with them, hire a few, train them, and then grow them into a full functional employee.
Yeah, and so I agree with that, right? Providing trainings, but make the trainings not a requirement as much as helping the employees see the value to the overall organization. As we pointed out, there is significant financial benefits to this. Other things that can be done, right? And I think he touched on this a little bit, is to have champions within the organization to help promote the visibility of the diverse population, having mentors to help the diverse population grow. Having affinity groups where people can self-identify themselves within a group, and then those groups can, possibly have outside activities as well as participate within the organization. These groups can help promote the diverse population. So great points.
All right, Greg, I'll start the last question with you. Are there any activities or trainings that you can recommend for organizations to strengthen the E&I in security?
Yeah, I struggled with this one a little bit from the standpoint that there's a lot of great trainings out there. There's a lot of organizations who put together trainings. There's a lot of blogs out there. There's a lot of Slack channels, etc., where people are connecting with each other and they're being able to give this great trainings or learnings. The most important thing to me, though, is to focus on the employee engagement. If you do pick some training for your employees, make the training fun and fast, right? Don't have these 20 different trainings where each is an hour long and the employee just feels so encumbered by it that, oh my gosh, I got to do this training. And when am I going to get my other work done, right? So try to make it fast, impactful training messages going out to the employees. And, above all, try to make the training fun to them so that, you can gamify it, or you can, just try to make it so it's not so thought of as like, you've got to do this requirement.
I agree. And I think one thing I will add, that one size does not fit all in this case, right? You gotta, again, just like you listening to your customers, you gotta listen to your employees, right? And some of this training, some of this awareness needs to be, yes, there will be some corporate requirements, but most of it needs to be targeted to the employee group, area, specific department, specific plant, and then make sure your training has a goal, and then you measure against the goal, right? A lot of time these trainings are just checkbox, as you were mentioning, 20 hours of training, and then at the end of this, employee is still struggling, don't know what the reason was of the training, right? So have focus training, have a goal, measure against the goal, and then adjust. There's no one size fits all. As long as you are staying up current with the trend, current with the system, you will be able to make sure your employees are productive and they're happy, as well as you can retain the new talent.
Yeah, just to add to that, I know trainings are essential, but from an employee standpoint, I tend to feel like there's already trainings going on, and they can only go a long way to solving the problem. So the one thing I would just want to include in that is going to be hosting some things like D&I workshops, partnering with diversity focused organizations, we can't deny the fact that there are some organizations doing this better than our organizations probably doing it. So, having that relationship, like, if it's financial, we have FSISAC, HSISAC for healthcare, just bringing that just internal, external, and that cordial relationship across organizations. And the other thing is going to be providing the cybersecurity training and mentorship to the underrepresented groups. I believe we mentioned that earlier. But most of this is just encouraging the employees to participate in the diversity DEI initiatives and recognizing and reward contribution in the area. I believe D&I is an ongoing effort. So there's going to be required commitments and continuous improvements to make this keep happening. So it's not just going to be I believe he was Nabil saying, one size fits all. It's never going to be that. It's going to be a ongoing wheel of change. So yeah.
So thank you, Coretta. Thank you, guys. I think just to kind of add a couple things to that last question, obviously the goal here is collaboration, right? And have a nice functioning team, whether it's physical, mixed mode, remotely, asynchronous work, which is part of the challenge to creating that culture and having a united front with purpose. So I think when folks ask about some of the practices, you guys provided some examples and some resources, but it is a new environment. It has changed. It's not what it used to be. And it requires new purposeful team bonding practices, right? I don't think we mentioned team building activities and things like that, but we just have to be innovative ourselves within the enterprise to make sure that we bring the talent and attract the right talent. And if we have the programs in place and we perceive that there's a shortage of talent or the talent that we need to attract, obviously we need to change that internally first. So we have ambassadors for the company that go out and attract the talent that you're trying to reach. And if it's not in the local area, we got to get emphasize and improve on the outreach efforts, going out and reaching out to other organizations or other segment areas to try to attract that talent. I'll give you guys an opportunity to share any final thoughts, starting with you, Correde.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I just wanted to mention regarding final thought is, although we have all of this, standards and frameworks and pretty much, SEC regulations and all of them. So those are like, following the trail, we want to remain compliant. So as much as we're doing that, it's also essential to have that thought of disruptive leadership. So we want to do things that are atypical, positive at our niche. So if you're depending on the kind of organizations, there's going to be things that you can pioneer in terms of security, and just imbibing that culture. I believe it's a great thing to do as well.
Thank you, Nabil.
I would say make sure that you are encouraging your employees to participate. Keep listening to your employees on the feedback. Make sure they don't take this as a requirement. Take it it's valuable to them, ma'am. Make sure they feel safe, as well as listen to your customer, right? Listening to them will also enable you to have a diverse program.
Greg.
Thank you. So once again, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this forum. A great bunch of people here, and very talented. I think we brought out a lot of great points. I think from a final message type thing is, just remember diversity. Every single person has unique skills. So the skills you bring to the team or to your organization is unique. And it's important to recognize that, but it's also important to recognize that every other person has those maybe different unique skills, and they bring in talents, and there's a reason why the organization hired them. So remember that your coworker working with you, whether or not they're diverse or different from you, look upon that as a good thing, because at the end of the day, it's going to help make the team stronger.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll have about 10 minutes. Let's take some questions. Greg, I'll give you the first question. Going back to, from your experience, how has cybersecurity evolved over the past couple of years? The question from the crowd was, from the audience, let's see. Are you folks seeing that across the board and continuing?
So I've seen organizations, and I work with a lot of different organizations, grow, and I've seen them from their cybersecurity standpoint. It's no longer just information security; it's much more focused on cybersecurity and helping the organization, like looking at digital assets, looking at devices and securing those. So it's not just about data security or securing your data, but it's actually much greater than that. So absolutely, I've seen it grow over the years, and I've seen it take on new responsibilities in the organization. And we've seen from court rulings, as well as the SEC making statements about how important cybersecurity is within an organization, and definitely have seen organizations take this much more seriously than they did years ago. And I hope that this continues, and it's not just a fad, but it's a trend that will stay here for a long time.
And Greg, if I may add to your comments, obviously the speed of change it's fast and furious. It's not going to slow down now with generative AI coming on board and many other things transforming and emerging technologies. It's going to continue. And we just need to adjust and try to anticipate as much as we can. But the other piece that you kind of alluded to is the convergence piece, right? It's not just IT and physical security, is resiliency, is business continuity. It's all of it to make a stronger enterprise. And how do we do that? I mean, some folks recommend that convergence it's a bad word to use. It's more about process assurance integration, and it's just security. You evaluate the risk and you adjust to those. Anyone else want to add anything to that question before we go to the next one?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base with just to extend what Greg mentioned about, we're seeing SEC regulation and things like that. So the other thing we're seeing is how it's moving from an org level prosecution and, penalize it for penalty for violations to personal. We're seeing CISOs, having been held responsible for misconfigurations. So that's pretty new, especially from 2023 up.
All right, guys, one more question. How have you seen successful DE&I security teams work effectively? Are they more adaptable?
Yes,
more responsive? All right.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, yes, obviously they are more adaptive. They can 2 and 2, or 1 and 1 is 11 in this case, and truly is. Bringing a diverse team will allow you to not overextend your team, right? So if you have some junior members, some senior members, then your senior members can train their replacements and then move on to more opportunities, more better things, bigger things. I've done that with my own career as well as with my teams, right? So as the business is growing, having trained your junior members become your more mid-level career people, and your mid-level career people becoming your anchors helps. Similarly, having a diverse group will allow you to look at your product value add more value. So again, that turns out to be more revenue, and obviously, like any for-profit organization, business cares about value and new dollars.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I wanted to mention with that is I've seen, just to remember that everybody comes with their wealth of knowledge to bring together a team, and there's going to be specializations and strengths and weaknesses and things that applications and tasks that engineers or operational analysts are more comfortable doing. I've seen analysts, for example, that they're just curators. They're good at documentation, just putting things together so that they can have a source of truth for the team, for the org. And I've seen people that, they just want to roll up their sleeves and against it and steady on the technical configuration and things like that. None of that is not important. Just understanding, strengths and leveraging from there is what I believe it's essential for diversity growth.
Yeah, one final point, and I think this kind of goes to the message that we're trying to portray here or put out there, is that when on a DEI team, right, you're going to look at the strengths. So it's strength-based management, right? You're going to hire people who are strong in their in certain capabilities, and hiring the right people with those strengths will ensure that the diversity is there, right? Because because of the different backgrounds, the different perspectives, the different experiences, those are what help the organization grow and ultimately will, produce a better product for your customers.
Thank you, Greg. I think we're very short on time. I don't see any additional questions on the chat. I appreciate the discussion and your time, gentlemen. It was fantastic. Nick, if we don't have any other questions, I'll pass it back to you.
Great. Well, thank all of you guys for such an insightful panel discussion. And I want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. This officially concludes the Argyle CISO Leadership Forum. Thank you again for joining us today and engaging in our content. We look forward to seeing you at our next Argyle Digital IT event soon. Have a great rest of your day.